Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone to World of Wildlife. This is a gathering that is held once a month. We hold it on the 10th of every single month. The time changes so that we can get people from around the world coming. My name is Dr. Sarah and I'm the host for this, along with Dr. Wong from the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Centre. We've been running this online event, since the beginning of COVID. And the reason being is we really wanted to connect people who were feeling a little bit disconnected, who work with wildlife or have a love of wildlife around the world. So it's grown since then. It's grown from just a gathering where we chatted to each other and kept each other sane to something where we now have a guest speaker every single month. I'm really excited to introduce our guest speaker for this month, but I'm gonna hold off that at the moment. I'm going to start by giving you an update what I've been up to. I'll pass over to Dr. Wong to let you know a little bit about what he's been doing and what's going on in Borneo, and then we'll pass over to our guest speaker. So, World of Wildlife. I am the author of quite a few books now. It's grown while we've been doing this. We started World of Wildlife when I had one book to my name, Saving Sun Bears, which is the biography of Dr. Wong, the other co-host. It's an amazing sort of an adventure story, and tells about his life all through the world as he was learning how to trap bears in Montana, learning how to take care of rescued animals in Taiwan, and creating the Bornean Sun Bear Conservation Centre in Sepalok, Sabah, Malaysia. So Wong, we'll pass over to you in a minute, but you can see after I'd actually finished writing Saving Sun Bears, I actually then thought, I really need to connect kids to some of these incredible conservation messages. So that has resulted in 6 books about Wong's adventures with different species in the jungles of Borneo. The Wildlife Wong series, which was shortlisted for an Australian Educational Publishing Award in 2022, sorry. And this year, as most of you know, I've launched Curious Kai Asks Why, which is a story about a young girl that travels around Queensland wanting to find out answers to her crazy questions about wildlife. She travels from North Queensland to South. She learns all about things like cassowaries and bilbies and praying mantis and manta rays and turtles and all sorts of incredible creatures along the way. I now go into schools and do workshops in community and environmental organizations that connect kids and adults to nature. And this month, one of the things I did was actually give a talk at the Noosa National Park Friday Forum. This is one of the talks I do for adults called Borneo Bears and Books, all about my journey, meeting Wong, learning about the bears, and starting to write narratives about bears, including my doctorate, which focused on how we can engage non-scientists to conservation through narrative. Okay, so that went really well. It was a really, really fun event. Very much enjoyed that. Other things I've done this month was having a stall at the Monday markets on the Sunshine Coast, and I've done that a couple of times this month. It's been really fun to meet people who are interested in the books, but also have lots of really cool conversations and connect with school teachers and schools themselves through this process. So I'll be doing the same again next Wednesday. If any of you are interested in stopping by and having a yarn or grabbing a book for a Christmas present for someone young in your life, then come and see me at your Monday markets. The last thing I've done this month, I'm super excited about. Madura and I have launched a tour that I'll be conducting in June next year to the Pico Trail in Sri Lanka. So if any of you are avid walkers and would like to come along, we have 3 spots remaining on this tour. It's a 10-day tour through the highland area of Sri Lanka. Now, as you know, Sri Lanka's been having a bit of a hard time over the last few weeks. Things will be it's a very resilient country, so things will be back to normal well before we arrive. And one of the ways that we can support Sri Lanka in getting back on its feet after the disastrous weather it's had recently is by supporting through tourism. And ecotourism is the way to go, as we know in Borneo as well as in Sri Lanka. So 3 more spots left. Maximum walking every day will be about 15K, and we'll have plenty of time for cultural immersion as well. So if anyone's interested, or you know anyone who's interested, then go to my website and click tours. You'll find out all the details on that one. All right, so that's basically what I've been doing. I'd like to pass over to Dr. Wong, so you can tell us a little bit what's been going on in Borneo. Wong, over to you.
Okay, good, Sarah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us this morning. Also over the last month, when we have this meeting, I was in Hua Hin in Thailand attending the WON conference, and right after that, I came back and then give talks to a school in Kota Kinabalu, and then after that, stay in the center for a few days, and then going to Taben. So right now at our center, for those of you who have been visited our center, the next time where you come to visit, you will see very different, especially in our entrance. So we have built an entrance foyer, and right now, the constructions of the entrance foyer, we just increase the whole entrance area so that it makes it more presentable. And then right now we are working on the signboards. There will be a gateway called "Welcome to Buddha Samay Conservation Center," where you can see the world's smallest bear in the forest. And then and also we are working on a series of signboards designed by Wenbing. Is Wenbing here today? Maybe not. Yeah, yeah,
He's
he's
not
not.
here
Yeah.
today. He said, unfortunately, he's got a class
Yes, yes, yes,
time,
yeah.
so he's
He's
going to
yeah.
catch up
He's yeah.
later.
No problem. So
But Wong
so he has
is an
been
illustrator
help.
and has done an amazing job, hasn't he?
Yes, he has been helping us design a few series of signboards over the years, actually, especially this full year, yeah. And it's all completed, and then partially is on. We already received the final print, and then there's another batch who we just sent to printing. Hopefully, will be done by in another few more weeks or so. Yeah. And then the plan is to have our official launch of our entrance for you on the 12th of let me see if it is on the 12th. Yes, it's on the 12th of next year. We have the launch of the entrance foyer, and then
January.
yeah, yes, January, yeah, January 12th. Yeah, so that project is finally official launch, and also next year is also the official year for Visit Malaysia Year 2026, where Sun Bear is being chosen as the mascot for the Visit Malaysia Year. Many people across the world have seen Wira and Manja, these two very cute sun bears, in many places. And the Malaysia government has spent money to advertise Visit Malaysia here, where these two cute sun bears called Wira and Manja has been the ambassador to promote, asking people to come and visit Malaysia here.
So, Wong,
Yeah.
what is the benefit of that to you? Is it awareness building mostly? Is that what you're looking for?
All of the above, for
Yeah.
this is for the first time where sun bear is being recognized at this top government level, where it has been used to represent Malaysia. In the past, it's always orangutan, proboscis monkey, hornbills, yeah, and then sun bear never being mentioned, and this time sun bear being mentioned, and it has been put under the spotlight. So which is good for me because I've trying to raise awareness all these years, and the audience that I can reach is minimum. But right now, with the help from the governments, it actually helps a lot. And then we're expecting there'll be more tourists coming to Malaysia, including Sabah, including Sepilo. And of course, with that, we can improve our revenues. And then, but for me, I want people to come here because beside visiting our center, is also visit other nature places as well, because in Sabah, in most of the Malaysia, people do tourisms based on this nature-based tourism, where or ecotourism, where people visit forests, see wildlife, and then the presence of the tourists would help to create job for local people and also to improve local people's livelihood. That's why uh, I need to use nature-based tourisms as the third option after educations and law enforcement to help wildlife conservation, because telling the very poor people not to do this, not to do that is not that effective. And then in terms of law enforcement, we still have a lots of rooms to grow.
Yeah.
And then the top option is to do it from the other ways to improve local people livelihood and show local people that, hey, wildlife that running wild and alive can help their livelihood, can help them create job, and so that they have the incentive growing from themselves to protect wildlife and nature. And I think that's the way to go, because we still have it in many places. The forest wildlife already gone, then it's too late to do nature-based tourism. So we need to promote that as much as possible. Yeah, and then after that, I visited Tabint, yeah, briefly, and uh, e- seeing Tinoms, and right now Tinom and Pitang, they are about the same weight. You'll be amazed to see how big Pitang grow. And either today or tomorrow, if I got time, so I'll upload some of the video on my social media. And Tinom is very wild right now. She has been several times. She do not want to come back, sleep in the forest consecutively for like 4 nights. And then and right now she was away again for several days last week, and we managed to get her into the cage just the day before yesterday. And then we are going to, there's something wrong with the collar, with the satellite collar that she's wearing. It's not working well. So we will have our vets to go and change the satellite collar on tomorrow. Yeah, on tomorrow. And after that, the collar working, hopefully the collar have no problem, and then she can be walk again. And we expect that it will be getting even more difficult to get her back to her cage every evening. But it's okay, we just
That's a
leave
good
it.
thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah, definitely it's a good thing. And right now she improve her swimming skill, her foraging skill, her climbing skill. Hopefully with her size, right now she's about 26, 27 kilograms. As a young female, she managed to defend for herself. And why we have to do such a long soft release program. She has been there for almost 2 years. We have been working in the
2 years.
forest
I
for
was
almost
wondering
2 years.
that. So it's been 2 years since you started Camp Tenham.
Yes, exactly. So we sent her uh, uh, last year on January
Mm.
30th. Yeah, is where we sent her to the forest, and we have been walking her in the forest since. So a lot of hard work, a lot of yeah, I mean,
Well,
for especially my team.
the cub usually spends the first 2 years with its parent.
Well,
Um,
I suspect up to
you
3 to 4 years. Yeah, even
okay,
longer with them.
okay,
And
okay. So
all of
she's
this is
starting to be a
because,
bit more independent now. So you're thinking that this might be the transition.
yes, definitely this is the transition. And the reason why Sun Bear has such a long maternal care is that the competitions amongst sun bears in the forest is very high. In our forest, the forest productivity in terms of fruiting is very low, and because of that, the forest productivity is always low, and food is scarce, and therefore the sun bear compete with each other. They literally live in a bear kills bear world. And
Mm.
then and mother bear have to spend a lot of time to take care of the bears, to protect the bear from other bears, other adults bear attack. Yeah, so when a sun bears, their size is small, it's actually very vulnerable to other adult bears in the forest. So Tenom have grow big, and hopefully she can defend for herself. And then and she'll be, I think, we will continue monitor her. It's just that we do not need to get her into a cage every night to protect her from other bears, as long as she grow big, as long as she can self-defense. And then and we still will monitor, this Tabin Sambe project will not stop despite she has lived an independent life. We'll continue our monitoring. We'll continue the data gathering in the field. And then at the same time, we also have the second bears called Pitang, who is 1 year younger than Tino. And she's still a little bit shy. So we'll still continue doing the walking work and then monitoring work and then trapping of wild sun bears because we want to uh, put radio collars on the wild bears in our study area, in the area, so that we know both of our rehab bears and also the wild sand bears doing. Yeah, and then hopefully I can raise sufficient money to set up our camp, our proper field station in Tarbin next year. So finger crossed. So that's it for me.
So during this process, Wong, you've used photography as a research tool, haven't you? Because it's hard to actually see sun bears in the wild. They're very, very elusive. So to have 2 rescue bears in a soft release program has been really helpful on that gathering photographic evidence, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Because sun bear, they live in such a dense forest, and plus their behaviors naturally is very shy. So it's very difficult to observe bears in the wild. And then with this kind of soft release program, where the bears cub is habituated to their caretaker, we can get close. We can do a lot of, videographing, photographing, and get amazing footages of the bears. Yeah, which
Is there anything
were
you've learned in this last 2 years? Is there anything that you've learned from that evidence that was a surprise?
Yes and no. So yes, I think there is a lot of things that the bears taught us how a sun bear live in the wild. Say, for example, on a hot days, they love to dip themselves in the forest, and then they spend so much time on tree, sleeping, resting, foraging, harvesting fruit directly from tree. And this is definitely an arboreal bears. And right now we are working with University of Sunshine Coast with Professor Beth, who is actually she's in
Isn't she?
yeah, she's here already. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and her student Elka to analyze the data that we gather to try to put a full picture of a natural history of sun bears that live in our elusive forest.
It was wonderful. Last month, Elka shared some of the research and some of the beautiful imagery that you've collected, which was a real delight, I must say. It was just gorgeous. So if anyone here hasn't
absolutely
seen that, you can go back to the YouTube channel and see some of that incredible footage that's been collected. So yeah. Anyone else got a question for Wong?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Irene.
How do you get Tinam to come back? Do you bribe her with food, or you just call her?
Oh, we try everything. That's why many attempts fail until it got dark, and then or until the weather get bad. And then we have to, I told my team that okay, it's okay, just leave her alone, and then continue the search the next day. And usually she's still around, she's still around the camp. And then and there was one night she came. The team give up on searching her and try to bring her back, and then we just let her be. And then she came back at night to her cage. We leave the cage open with food inside. She managed to come in and eat the food. And it seems like she is settling down in the forest where she lived, where we walk her, which is what we want. Do we want to let her establish her home range in that area so that our presence will more or less help to protect her from other bears as well. If she needs help, we are here to help. Yeah.
So when you okay, sorry. So when you eventually release her into the wild, do you do it where the camp is, or do you bring her somewhere else?
No. It will be at the camp. We just
so
let the
door
door
open. To come back if needed.
Yes, yeah. Because if we bring her to another places, then it will defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
She will going into an alien forest again. She's not familiar with the area. She's not familiar with other residents, bears or other residents in the area. And right now, because she has been growing up in that area near Camp Tinom, and she is very confident, around the area and know where to go. Yeah. So it's a long process. We spend a lot of money, and also our team, the amount of time where they have to spend in the forest, is actually not easy. Yeah.
And I think that's worth noting, isn't it, Wong, that the project you've released a lot of different bears and learned a lot from this process, and this method of soft release is the most labor and time intensive of anything, but possibly has the best option of success. Yeah, but it does money. So yeah, anyone who feels like they don't want to be a consumer this Christmas and they prefer to actually spend money protecting bears, then they can do that by adopting a sun bear with you, or just as a pure donation.
Yeah, definitely, because this kind of project, we spend so much money, to set up the camp, run the field project, hire our field staff on the ground, and then vehicles always breaking down, and a lot of challenges working long term in the field, and we need a lot of money to make it happen. And for me, again, if I can choose not to rehab bears, I would choose not to rehab bears. I would want all of the sun bear live happily in the wild. All right. And then the rehabilitation is something that I don't have other choices. I need to do it. The conservation center, the bears that live at our conservation center, I don't have other choice. I need to help the wildlife departments to take care of them. At the same time, try everything to stop people from poaching, from keeping bears as pets. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal. We have to do it step by step, and hopefully we do not need to rescue any more bear. And with nature-based tourism, with education, with law enforcement, and everybody do their parts to really, really conserve the sun bears on the ground. Okay.
Well done, Wong. Well done for everything you've been doing.
All right, thank you.
Any last questions for Wong?
No, okay.
Looks like it. Okay. Well, thank you, Wong. And that leads us really well into our guest speaker for today. So I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, David Mackenzie, who is a wildlife photographer. He's also a couple of other things. He's going to talk about wildlife photography and its role in conservation, but he's also a North American bear lover. So he is a bear lover and has spent a lot of time in Canada, where you guys are, Irene and Taylor. And in that sense, he's a visual storyteller, and those visual storytelling methods are a way of connecting people to nature and conservation. So I would like to pass over now to David. We're really looking forward to hearing more about what you've got to offer, David. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll just attempt to share my screen. There we go. Is everyone able to see that okay?
Yep, all good.
Okay, great. Well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to talk about conservation photography and wildlife photography, and I think I'll be talking about photography as they lower me into a box somewhere. It's a passion that I've had for a very long time. My photographic journey started when I was about 7 years old, where my sister gave me a camera that she'd been using, and she was a bit older than me, but she handed me this camera, and it was a thing called a box brownie, which is a little box about that big, and I've still got it. But that's where my photographic journey began, and I grew up in the bush in New South Wales on a sheep and cattle station, and I used to run around the garden when I was a little fella, and then get a little bit more adventurous as I grew up taking photographs. And my journey through various different camera options continues to this day. But about 20 years ago, I had an occasion to be in Breckenridge in Colorado, skiing with my son, and it was a horrible windy day and the lifts were all closed. So I went for a walk down the street in Breckenridge, and I happened to wander into a photographic gallery run by a man called Thomas Mangelson. And I didn't really know very much about him as a person or his photographs until I saw one image that I recognized immediately. And when I describe it, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's an image of a bear on top of a waterfall in Alaska with its mouth open and a salmon in its mouth. No, few people know Mangelson by name, but they all know his image. And I was captivated by that. And that sent me on a course to really devote my photographic energies to wildlife and, by extension, photographing wildlife for conservation and telling stories about the conservation of wildlife. I had an opportunity some years later to travel back to the US to meet Tom Mangelson at a photographic workshop in Denver, Colorado. And that's where a couple of very significant things happened during that occasion. I had the opportunity to meet Mangelson and several other really good photographers who have been and continue to be inspirations for me. And I also met Linda on that occasion too, back in 2013. We kind of pretty much became friends instantly. So it was a special time, and meeting someone like Tom Mangelson was special, and it helped solidify what I wanted to do. And fast forward to now, I guess I've been focusing very much on taking photographs that tell stories ever since, including numerous trips back to North America, and also some of the work that I do here in Australia to tell stories, and koalas being an area of special interest for me and for Linda as well, with the work we do with Queensland Koala Crusaders. And I think it's really important to get people to engage in issues such as the need to conserve koalas through visual stories, because people fall in love with images. We've been telling stories through images since humanity began. You think about the rock art paintings and cave paintings and things all over the world, and stories are passed down from generation to generation through visual imaging. So in photographic terms, in terms of today, I guess I like to think about approaching photography for conservation with a purpose. And that means some pre-planning and thinking about what sort of images I want to capture and what sort of stories I want to tell with those images. We can tell a story with one image, or we can tell a story with a series of images, or we can tell a story with images and text, and have them published in magazines and so forth. So there's different mediums, and from a photography point of view, it's worth considering where you want to tell the story. And for most of us these days, it's social media. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us to just put a story out there for people to see. We can also use traditional media and magazines and things as well. And when those sort of opportunities come along, it's great, because it's a big circulation, and it's personally rewarding as well. I get the suggestion a lot that capturing good wildlife images is about being in the right place at the right time. And I kind of take a little bit different view to that, in that I think it's about knowing the right place and knowing the right time and being there. So when we're telling conservation stories, it's about doing our homework so we understand what sort of behaviours or what sort of situations we're trying to capture with our images and photographs. So planning and photographing with a purpose is, I think, one of the important ways in which we can harness our photography to tell good stories. So that leads me to the first slide, and it is not and never will be about the gear. I love new cameras. I love new photographic toys, and I love embracing all of those things that come with a new gadget or a new camera. But it's never about the camera. This is just a few things I threw on the bed the other day that come out of my camera bag that in any particular time I might use to capture images with a raft of different lenses. There's an action camera there. There's a drone. There's my big camera with its 200 to 800 mil lens on it, which I've captured some nice shots with. Even those binoculars sitting there on the left are able to take photographs and video. So we have this vast array of tools at our disposal now to capture images. But some of the most important photos in history have not been taken by big, expensive equipment. And I probably take as many photos with this thing as with all of that other stuff put together. And it's really possible, especially with the technology that lives inside phones these days. It's really possible to take some great images with a simple tool that's in our pocket all of the time. So, it's easy to think, oh, I could take good photos like that if I had a better camera, or if I had a better lens, or if I had a good whatever. But really, the opportunity is there to just get whatever camera out and put yourself into a situation in front of a subject and press the button. And we can talk about shutter speeds and apertures and all that sort of technical stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about the image that you capture with what you've got at your disposal at the time. So I thought today what I'd do is share a few images that speak to me about a conservation message. And then I want to tell a special story at the end about a particular occasion that tells a story about a particular very special environment. This first image is obviously a coastal brown bear from British Columbia in Canada. The story behind this image is that we were on a small photographic expedition into a rainforest area along the coast, which is a marine environment with lots of glacial melt coming down. And where this photo was taken was fairly close to the interface between saltwater and freshwater. And we pulled up on this, we were in rubber inflatable boats. We pulled up onto this island to have some lunch, and we saw this bear on the other side of the estuary, just walking along rather curiously, looking at us. And then it decided to swim across onto our island. The island is probably about half the size of a football field. And it wandered up reasonably close and stood there for some minutes, maybe 5 minutes, just looking at us. There was a group of maybe 10 of us with a guide, and the guide just said, just stay close. It's going to be okay. Don't decide to wander off on your own for obvious reasons. And we did that. And before long, the bear just decided that we were no threat to it and it was no threat to us. So it sat down and started eating its lunch with us. And it was a very cool moment. But the story that this photograph conveys is that we think bears are these big ferocious things that tear people to shreds and eat whatever flesh they can. But the reality is their diet is largely herbivorous. On this particular time of the year, the salmon have not quite started to run in the coast of British Columbia. So their diet is primarily vegetation like their sedge grass and berries. And so in this one capture, it shows a softer side of a beautiful animal that's actually eating grass. And that's a major part of its diet at that time of the year. So one image can tell one short story about the behavior of a bear that perhaps people don't know so much about. This next image comes from the same trip, and it was captured beautifully by Linda. And it's of two bears, a male on the left and a female on the right, that we'd been observing for some time, probably half, three-quarters of an hour. They came down from the hills at the back onto this, basically the water's edge. You can see that it's tidal, rocks and kelp and seaweed and all sorts of things. And this was a mating pair of brown bears, and we'd watched them engage in mating behavior for probably 20 minutes. And there's a story in that. Yes, they were mating. It would have been easy to capture images. In fact, Linda and I both got images of them actually mating. But the real story here is the tenderness of their relationship when they finished mating. And that brief touch of nose was a very soft, tender moment between these two animals that we think of as ferocious predators. They touched their nose and then off they went their separate ways. And it was just a beautiful conclusion to an activity, a behavior that these two animals were carrying out totally in the wild. We were at a reasonably safe distance in an inflatable boat again, so we weren't necessarily intruding on their space, close enough to get nice images like that, but not too close to threaten or interfere with their behavior. And that's always important to us whenever we're in the field with nature, is to not put yourself in a position that interferes with the behavior of the animals that you're trying to capture. So a beautiful image captured by Linda, and it's actually framed on the wall in our living room. That one, it's very special to us. This next image is totally different again. It's from here in Queensland, and if I were to submit that image to a photographic competition, it wouldn't get past round one. If I were to submit it to be critiqued by photographic judges and others, they would tear it to shreds, because there's a whole lot wrong as an image. But to tell a visual story, it's a different thing, because it's about a flock of plum-headed finches. And I'd been watching those finches for about half an hour. And if you've ever spent time with small birds like that, they never stop. They're just going all over the place all of the time. I had maybe 2 seconds to grab that image when they all just landed on that piece of dead stick. It looks like it's a piece of dead castor oil plant or something. They all just landed on the stick, fired off a couple of images in that fractions of a second, and boom, they're gone. But it tells the story about the fact that these animals live in flocks like that. They're seed eaters, obviously, but you can see that vegetation on the right is lantana, which is an invasive pest species here that's taken over lots of areas of coastal Queensland, and it's a terrible thing. But here, these birds have made it part of their habitat. So it tells the story of the interaction between where these birds live and the vegetation around that they've adapted to. The water in the background in that shot is actually the Brisbane River, and it's about 2 hours northwest of Brisbane, where I captured that image. I could have cropped out the lantana and would have made it probably a more correct photo from a composition standpoint, but I don't think it tells the story as effectively. So I chose, and I spent hours agonizing over it. but I chose to leave the lantana in there because I think that's part of the story. If I were to want to have that image as a to submit for a competition or something else, then maybe might have made different choices. The other interesting thing about that image, as it is there, as you see it there, is that when I had my photographic gallery, it was one of my best-selling images. So even though, to my mind and to a critic's mind, it's not correct, it's still appealing because it's interesting. So that's why I selected that one to talk about as well. We have two really great conservation success stories in Queensland over the last probably generation, and one is the humpback whales and the resurgence of humpback whales in their vast numbers that are coming up and down the Queensland coast now, and I find them incredibly exciting to photograph, and it really showcases a success in conservation of an animal. And for our Canadian friends, I've got some great photos of humpbacks in British Columbia as well. The other one, of course, one of my favourite animals of all is our saltwater crocodile. And these things were persecuted and hunted and almost to the point of total destruction before the protections were put in place a number of years ago now, and they're coming back, and we're learning to live with saltwater crocodiles. As dangerous as they are, we're learning to live with them. And I noticed in the press this morning there's more controversy about relocating crocodiles for safety reasons and all of that. To me, the safety procedure is don't get in the water where there's crocodiles. It's pretty simple. They were here first, but
David,
that's just me. I love.
For a question from Jenny.
Yes.
Yeah, in the crocodile, along its tail, it's missing one scoot. And it seems to me, can you see there's a gap there in the scoot?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I believe, and I don't know the direct answer to your question, except that this crocodile's on the Daintree River in North Queensland, and crocodiles are studied by researchers from university and others, and sometimes they take samples. Crocodiles also.
I have worked with the freshwater crocodile research in Queensland, and one of the things we did was to cut out from younger ones, one scoot in along the tail, and then others along the two spines, and they were a number. It was a numbering system.
Yeah, look,
I can't see if there are
it's
any
highly
other
likely that
gaps
that's what happened. Yeah, it's likely that that's what happened. I don't know. Crocodiles, saltwater crocodiles, as you probably know, they fight and they have all sorts of injuries as well.
Yeah,
so
it could be that,
yeah,
because I can't quite see if there's another scoot missing along the other further up the back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but to me,
it was like hundreds, tens, and units sort of thing, the way it was recorded.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that they did that for research.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting story in its own right. Well done, Jenny.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's another element to the story that photograph can convey. So that brings me to a very special event. And this is a story about an expedition, and I've alluded to it a little bit already, into the Great Bear Rainforest in British Columbia. And Linda and I were invited to go on a photography expedition into the Great Bear Rainforest in 2017. And I knew a little bit about the area because I'd read about the bears and some of the wildlife encounters that we were likely to have, including the fact that it was the habitat and the home of the spirit bear, which is a very special bear, said to be one of the rarest bear species on Earth. But we were told that there would be no spirit bears there because it was the wrong time of the year. The salmon weren't running. It's very unlikely that the spirit bears would be down near the water's edge where we could actually see them. The spirit bear is a white bear, and they occur. They're actually a black bear that's white, and they come about through the mating of two parents, both of which carry a recessive gene. And if two bears mate with that recessive gene, the offspring is white. There's said to be between 60 and 100 of those individual white bears in the Great Bear Rainforest. So to be in their proximity was special. It was a special time, and we spent a week there traveling around each day, and we didn't see a spirit bear. I just knew that there was one there waiting for us. I had a very strong feeling that it was there. It wanted to see us and say hello. And we'd been told numerous times that it was the wrong time of the year. It's a waste of time going up there. We won't see one. Linda, as some of you who know her know, is a very persuasive person. And she got onto the guides and said, we need to go up there and have a look. And we did. And that's what was waiting for us.
Wow, that's impressive.
It's a long way from my best photograph, but it to this day remains my most important photograph. And that experience, when we weren't supposed to have it, spoke to me on a very deep level. And it enabled me then to write an article which was published in Outdoor Photographer magazine in America in 2018. It was published, talking about the environment and the bears and the local people whose dedication to conserving this environment for ecotourism. And I was interested in Wong's statements before about the benefits of ecotourism, because that's what the Kitasoo-Heiheis people realised as well, is that by protecting their environment and protecting these bears, people would come to see it, and they would want to experience the place, and it's worked beautifully for them, and it's very special. It's interesting that when we captured the photos of the spirit bears and we went back to the lodge that night, the locals asked us not to publish any metadata in the photos that would give people an idea of exactly where that bear was. And, in a way that's disappointing, because you shouldn't have to do that, but it's understandable why they would want to. So that's an example of a series of photos that tell a story for conservation, and the story was words and photographs. Interestingly, on the next page in that article is a double-page spread of a landscape photo that I took with my phone of the marine environment. So, it goes back to my original point. It's not about the camera, it's about what you've got. And I pulled out my phone and this was with an iPhone 7. It's not even a particularly modern phone, just did a panorama, and I came home and I blew it up to 2 meters wide on canvas, and I sold a couple of versions of that, and it was published in the magazine. So, you can tell visual stories with pretty much anything. The main thing to me is to just get out in the environment with whatever you've got, capture images and tell stories. So that's where I'd like to wrap it up. I hope you've found that interesting and enjoyed some of the images, and happy to take any questions.
That was marvelous. Thank you, David. I love the stories that went along with the images. They're absolutely beautiful to hear. So thank you so much. I'm going to go first to Irene and Taylor, because this is your part of the world. What do you want to add?
Nothing, but like I said, like we're very aware of the Great Bear Rainforest, and it's definitely on our bucket list of places to go. And yeah, really cool to see that you went there and took these beautiful photos. So really amazing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. We went there the following year as well and hardly saw any bears at all. So
Okay.
that's what makes that experience incredibly special.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's got a question for David? While you're thinking, I've got one.
Sorry.
David, I know that, sorry, Nico, do you want to go first?
Sorry, is that for me?
Yes, go for it.
It was really just more a comment. Just the bear with the grass and the look in his eye, and you just can't, that's such a powerful photo. It's just, you just fall in love with that bear. It's magical. Yeah, thank you.
It is, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So David, my question was, you alluded to something that can be a negative about environmental and wildlife photography is giving people the ability to find the animals. I know that we've got the same problem in Queensland with the koalas, in that the Queensland koala spotting apps and things are trying really hard not to be specific so that we don't actually harm koalas. So do you think there's a way of actually managing these issues?
I think that's a really good question, and that's something we struggle with a lot. I think it's hard to get people to fall in love with a subject if you don't show them the subject. And whether it's koalas or bears or any other endangered species, the balance between human encroachment on a wild species is always a delicate one. With koalas, they're an iconic species in this country. They're important. Why should people not be permitted to go and see one in the wild? After all, that's what we say we want to do. We want to protect these animals so people can experience them in the wild, not in a zoo. So I think I struggle with it a little bit because there are people who may do the wrong thing. I've heard stories of people finding out where there's koalas and, a whole mass of people go and taking photos and making noise and all that sort of thing, disturbing an animal that's, essentially trying to rest to recuperate its energies because they have such an appalling nutritional source. But then what if someone in that gaggle of people goes off and gets really excited about the need to conserve these animals and donates money or becomes part of a movement or, whatever they choose to do. And so I think we have to trust people to do the right thing. Yes, there's a risk. The major issue with the spirit bears in British Columbia, what they fear is poachers, because obviously a rare animal like that would be valuable for a poacher, whether it be for its skin or just capturing the animal and taking it. So that's a slightly different deal that we don't face here in this country. But I think the reason they were keen for us not.
Certainly do in Borneo, don't we, Wong? So you certainly got that problem with wildlife photography in Borneo as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I think where is the balance is always very important, and then understanding the needs and the local situations and things like that. Like say, for example, Sabah, right now there is a small group of people that use this very rare pheasants called Borneo peacock pheasants. To generate revenues and help the local economy, I think, which is good because given the fact that the forest is so vast, given the fact that there's no patrolling or by law enforcement agencies on the ground, and we cannot stop anybody from entering the forest, but at least we can choose what kind of people are entering the forest. And then if our side of people entering the forest, meaning nature lover, nature tourists, and also birders, we can keep the poachers away and keep the wildlife alive and wild. Yeah, if there's no this group of people, then the local people are so poor, then they have no choice but to, poach, set snares, and everything's gone. And then people also ask me, what about mass tourisms? Are you worried about mass tourism? I said, I don't worry about the mass tourism just yet, right now. I worry about no tourism, because if there's no tourism, local people will start hunting, and and then the mass tourism issue come later. I think with this kind of impact from mass tourism in our mind, we can do good management to prevent them from happening or from getting worse. But right now, yeah, I need tourism. I need people, our side of people.
I think one thing that David talked about there, which is a perfect example, is the Queensland whale watching industry, where we used to shoot whales with guns and harpoons, and now we shoot them with cameras, and it's allowed them to come back.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's the photography is certainly a positive. It's a much better option than others, isn't it? But it does come with the caveat.
Yeah, the ultimate,
and when you think about it,
goal, if the ultimate goals is trying to generate revenues, then we need to find ways. And definitely through nature-based tourism is a good way to seek the balance.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it presents us with an opportunity to tell a story about how to interact with wildlife as well. And we can make that a part of the story when we capture these images, and tell a story about how to behave around an animal that needs to rest, or a nocturnal animal that needs its eyesight at night, doesn't want to have a spotlight in its face, and these things.
Yeah, well done. So yeah, that storytelling element of it is as important as the picture then. Yeah, well done. Any other questions for David?
I just had a question. I was wondering what your process was when you were trying to tell a story. Do you take the photo and then extrapolate the story from it, or do you aim have an idea of what story you're telling and then go after that?
That's a really great question, and in theory, I'm well planned. I'm focused on the story that I need, and I go out there and I capture the image and bring it back, and edit it all up, and that's great. The reality is not that, but I usually, if I have a story in mind, I go out there with a sense of purpose about the sorts of images that I think I want to capture to tell the story that I want to tell. Sometimes something happens, and I'll grab an image that tells a different story, and if that's the case, then I'll still tell that story. But as a general rule, as a wildlife photographer, I try and go into a situation with some sense of purpose as to what I want to capture, because that affects what sort of lens I've got, or what time of the day I'm out there, or all of those sort of factors go into the planning process. Don't want to go and photograph koalas if I'm trying to find images of them feeding or breeding or doing things in the middle of the day, because they're more likely to be asleep. So do that sort of degree of planning first.
There is interesting, David, so that before you even start taking images, you're doing a fair amount of research. To plan your images. Yeah, well, that's really important.
Yeah, photographing with purpose.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Good question there, Mara. Any last questions before we wrap up for the day? Oh, it looks like, Taylor, you're reaching here. It looks like you might have a question.
We have a quick question. Do you have a website we can go to look at all your photos, or you must have something?
Yes, I do. It's just simply davidmackenziePhotos.com.
Okay.
And Instagram, I think, is the same thing.
When we send out a link to the videos, we'll also share that so that you can click on that as well. But thank you, David, so much for being here today. I've learned a great deal, and I'm hoping that everyone else has as well. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge. Thank you, Wong, for being here and sharing yours, and for everyone else who comes monthly to find out more stuff about wildlife. It's really fun to have you here, and I'm glad that this community is growing. So don't forget, there are a couple of ways we can continue to have it grow. The first one is to actually, connect with things like the YouTube channel so that you can see past speakers and catch up in anything that you've missed. Connect with me on Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn as well. That's kind of a good way to make sure that you know what's coming up. And make sure that you've actually signed up, or if friends are interested, that they sign up for World of Wildlife newsletters so that they'll actually know when things are on. Okay, so based on that, please help spread the word. Let's get as many people in this community as we can. This is a free thing. Let's get as many people here as we can and share our knowledge. It's a really good thing to be able to do. I hope to see you next month. We've got a really cracker of a speaker again for you to learn a lot from. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I'm just working out the time frame, but she's awesome. So I think you'll enjoy that. Thank you very much for all your time, guys, and have a very merry holiday season. We'll see you in January.